Hello students, welcome to IASbyheart. Welcome to the 25th session of the Prelims Heist series. This series is your launchpad to crack prelims. So far we have completed 24 sessions and we have covered 240 questions which have high probability of featuring in your UPSC Prelims 2021. So without further delay, let's jump into the first question for this session. So the first question is from Polity, and recently you must have seen Sushil Chandra. He was appointed as the 24th Chief Election Commissioner of India. And now consider the following statements regarding the appointment of CEC. So the Constitution has not prescribed the qualifications for the Chief Election Commissioner. That is your first statement. And the second statement says he does not hold his office till the pleasure of the President, though he is appointed by him. So we have two statements here. I will give you 5 seconds to give me an answer in the comment box. So carefully go through both of the statements and give me an answer. So let's see these statements one by one. The Constitution has not prescribed the qualifications for the Chief Election Commissioner. That is true. The Constitution stays silent on the qualification of both the Chief Election Commissioner and the other election commissioners as well. So mostly bureaucrats are appointed to this position. Okay, that is the convention we follow, but there is no prescribed qualification. That is something you have to note here. And the second statement says he does not hold his office till the pleasure of the President, though he is appointed by him. So this statement you can cut it in two halves. He is appointed by the President. That part is true. And he does not hold his office till the pleasure of the President. So holding the office till pleasure of the President means that there is no constitutional basis for his removal. But for the removal of CEC and the election commissioner, there is a removal procedure. And the removal procedure is similar to the removal procedure of a Supreme Court judge. So since they have a removal procedure, this first half of the second statement also stands true. They do not hold the office till the pleasure of the President, but instead they will either complete their term or they will be either removed using the same removal process to remove Supreme Court judge. Okay, so both the statements given here are true. The answer is C, both 1 and 2. Let's see more about this in the coming slide. So first of all, the Election Commission. So the Election Commission is regulated by Article 324 of our Constitution. And according to that, Election Commission can consist of a Chief Election Commissioner and such number of other commissioners, if any, as the President may from time to time fix. So they might ask a question whether who can fix the number of commissioners in Election Commission. It is the President, not the Prime Minister, Cabinet or the Parliament and all. Okay, do not confuse it. Only the President will fix how many number of commissioners can comprise of in the Election Commission. So presently it consists of Chief Election Commissioner and 2 election commissioners. So let's see about the appointment and tenure of election commissioners. So the President appoints the election commissioner, Chief Election Commissioner and the election commissioners, that we all know. And they have a tenure of 6 years or up to 65 years of age, whichever is earlier. And they also enjoy the same status, receive same salary perks as available to the judges of the Supreme Court. You have to note that the removal procedure is also similar to them. So they have equal say in the decision making of the commission. So even if you are election commissioner, you have an equal say, as equal as the Chief Election Commissioner. Okay, we have 3 members and the decision is usually taken by consensus or majority. So all of them have only 1 vote. So that's what they mean by equal say in the decision making of the commission. And in the second, let's look at the removal procedure. So here, the Chief Election Commissioner can resign at any time or can also be removed before the expiry of their term. So who can be removed? How can he be removed? he can be removed in the same manner and the same grounds as the judge of Supreme Court. So that is why I said he won't serve till the pleasure of the president. Okay, till the pleasure of the president. But who serves like that? The governors. Okay, they serve till the pleasure of the president, but not election commissioners, because they have a strict removal procedure. Okay, in other words, he can be removed by the president on the basis of a resolution passed to that effect by both the houses of the parliament with special majority, either on the ground of proved misbehavior or incapacity. So there are only two grounds: proved misbehavior or incapacity. That is what the grounds are for Supreme Court judges. That is the same grounds we have for the election commissioners. And it has to be passed by a special majority by both the houses of the parliament, individually, not in a joint setting, but individually. Okay, and thus he does not hold his office till the pleasure of the president, though he is appointed by him. That's what you have to finally note here. And another election commissioner or a regional commissioner cannot be removed from the office except on the recommendation of the chief election commissioner. Only in this sphere, CEC's power becomes greater than election commissioner's power, because he has a say in the removal of other election commissioners or regional commissioner. So that is why he have a upper hand. He becomes the chief of that commission. Okay. Now let's see the limitations with respect to the appointment of the election commissioner. The constitution has not prescribed the qualifications of the members of the election commission. So qualifications as per the constitution, Pata, we have nil. Okay. And also the constitution has not specified the term of the members of the election commission. So the term was fixed as 6 terms or up to 65 years of age only through later statutes. Okay. So the constitution has not debarred the retiring election commissioners from further appointment by the government. So that is what they mean by the term. So if 1 term or 2 terms or 3 terms, so the constitution is silent on the number of terms that they can serve. So the constitution has also not debarred them from taking further appointment by the government. That means if you are working as chief election commissioner and then if you retire, you can then take up a job under the government of India. So that is allowed by the constitution right now. So, but this is a significant limitation, because we know that chief election commissioner, that position is a highly apolitical function, apolitical job. You have to stay highly, aloof from all the political happenings that is happening in the country. So you cannot favor any political party. But what is happening in India is after people retire from that post, they take jobs under the government of India. Like they take the jobs of governorship or any other, a consulting job under the government of India, etc. So those things are not desirable for the democracy of this country, because when they are working as a CEC, so then itself it means they are favoring one kind of a political party. So in return, they are being bribed in terms of post-retirement jobs. Okay, post-retirement jobs. So we don't have any incentive to believe that they will remain apolitical. Okay, they will remain unfavorable to any political parties. So this is one of the significant limitation in his appointment. Okay, so that's all we have here. Just go through the question and the different limitations, the appointment and removal procedure which we saw. Okay, this was in the news recently because Sushil Chandra was appointed as the latest chief election commissioner. Let's move on to the next question. This question is about India's public debt. Okay, this question is from economy. So India's public debt level is among the lowest in emerging economies. India's debt affordability is among the strongest in emerging economies. So both are pretty straightforward statements. So here they are saying India's public debt level is among the lowest in emerging economies, and they are also saying we have a very strong debt affordability. Okay, I'll give you 5 seconds to answer this question. So the answer to this question is option D. Both the statements are false because India's public debt level is among the highest in the country. Okay, so that's what you have to note here. This is based on the recent findings by Moody Investors Service. Okay, India's public debt level is among the highest in emerging economies, while debt affordability is among the weakest. Okay, so let's see what public debt is about. So public debt is the total amount borrowed by the government of the country. So this amount is usually borrowed by showing the consolidated fund of India. So India borrows money by showing consolidated fund of India as a security or as a collateral. So by showing that, they can take loans from multilateral institutions or from RBI or from banks abroad. So we can do that. So in the Indian context, public debt includes the total liabilities of the union government that have to be paid from the consolidated fund of India. You also have to note it excludes liabilities contracted against public account. So we know that we have consolidated fund of India, contingency fund of India, and then we have public account. So whatever money that we are paying the government, it goes to either one of these three. Okay. So if you are paying fees or fine or application fees, for example, for UPSC and all, those things go to the consolidated fund of India, and all the revenues that government earns, it goes to the consolidated fund of India. The contingency fund of India is a separate fund. It is maintained primarily to meet the contingency expenditures. For example, if we have any floods, landslides, or even the pandemic, for these things, we can take money from the contingency fund of India. And then we have public account. So this usually comprises of money that we put in a post office savings scheme and other pension schemes, national pension schemes, those kind of things that we do with the government, those kind of transactions that we have with the government, those money will be populated in the public account. Okay. That's what you have to know here, and we just saw what public debt is about. It is the total liabilities of the union government that have to be paid from the consolidated fund of India. So what are the sources of the public debt? We have 5 sources, which is dated government securities or GSECs. So these are government securities used to buy debt. Okay, these are traded in the open market by either by RBI or by the government itself. And then we also have treasury bills. These are short-term borrowing instruments. So usually they are dated less than 1 year. This is also sold in the open market, and some of the states buy them. States can also issue treasury bills. And then we have external assistance like IMF, World Bank and all. They can provide external assistance. So by showing the consolidated fund of India as security, the government can borrow. And we also have short-term borrowings. And the final one is the public debt definition by union government. That is what we just saw. The public debt definition. So here also they say it describes it as the public debt are liabilities which are contracted against the consolidated fund of India. So which article deals with the consolidated fund of India? Answer that in the comments below. It is Article 266. Okay, that deals with the consolidated fund of India. And the public debt is defined under Article 292 of the Constitution, which is nothing but the liabilities which are contracted against the consolidated fund of India. Now, as we are here, let's see about the debt to GDP ratio. Because the debt to GDP ratio is really bad, our debt affordability becomes very poor. We just saw our debt affordability is amongst the weakest among the emerging economies. Let's see why. The debt to GDP ratio indicates how likely the country can pay off its debt. So it is a very, very important economic measure because it assesses the government's ability to finance its debt. Okay, if the debt to GDP ratio is very high, many of the institutions will have second thoughts about lending us money. So higher debt to GDP ratio have fueled economic crisis worldwide. So this is a very, very undesirable situation for a country. And right now we are in that situation only. So what is an acceptable level of debt to GDP ratio? That is for India, in India's context. So according to N.K. Singh's Committee on Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act, they had envisaged a debt to GDP ratio of 40% for central government and 20% for state governments. So a total of 60% general government debt to GDP is seen as acceptable level according to N.K. Singh committee. But let's see what the current situation is. So based on this statistics, you can see that we are much higher than what we are supposed to. The national debt from 2015 to 2025, that is 2025 means here you can see a star. All of this is a forecast for the next 5 years, the forecast of next 5 years. So the national debt in relation to GDP. So how it will become? You see, a percentage of less than 60% is seen as acceptable level. But in 2015 we had 68, and then we maintained that level for some time. But at the end of 2019, at the beginning of 2020, we had a COVID pandemic. So it shot up to 89.33%. So we are almost near 90%. This is 30% above the sustainable debt levels. So for the next 5 years also, we can see that the ratio remains very high. So we have to immediately do something to bring it down. Okay. So just note the percentage levels. That is important for the prelims point of view. Let's move on to the next question. This question is on international relations and India's cooperation with various countries. So this states that India signed an agreement on technical cooperation titled Cities Combating Plastic Entering the Marine Environment. So this agreement was signed with who? Which of the following countries? Okay, I'll give you 5 seconds to give me an answer to this question. This is a technical cooperation agreement signed by the India's Environment Ministry. So the answer to this question is option C, Germany. So recently the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs and the German Federal Ministry of Environment, both of them signed an agreement. So this agreement was signed virtually, and this is based on the technical cooperation titled Cities Combating Plastic Entering the Marine Environment. So it is Germany and India. So this is in line with the SBM and Sustainable Solid Waste Management and PM's vision to phase out single-use plastic by 2022 in India. So these objectives are to be met under this agreement, and also the project aims at enhancing practices to prevent plastic from entering the marine environment. That is the most important thing. So let's see on which of these cities this will be undertaken. It will be undertaken in Kanpur, Kochi, Port Blair for a period of 3.5 years. That is in Uttar Pradesh, Kerala and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Only in 3 places we are cooperating with Germany for tackling plastic pollution, especially the plastic pollution on marine environment. Okay. Take a look at the cities involved, states involved and the country involved. Let's move on to the next question. So this question is about the cultivation of opium. We have 2 statements here. Legal cultivation of opium for medicinal purposes is carried out in India under free licensing conditions. Okay. Then the second statement is India is the largest manufacturer of legal opium in the world. Okay, we have two statements here. I will give you 5 seconds to give me an answer. Remember, we are talking about a legal cultivation. So the answer to this question is both the options are right. See both 1 and 2. That's because legal cultivation of opium for medicinal purpose is carried out in India. This is done by the government itself on government notified land. Okay, but it is done only in selected areas under free licensing conditions. Okay, and India is the world's largest manufacturer of legal opium. And this legal opium is used by the pharmaceutical industry primarily. This is according to the CIA's World Fact Book. So the second statement is also true. India is the world's largest manufacturer of legal opium. You might have any confusions with Afghanistan or Pakistan, etc. But they are cultivating it here also. But it is not legal opium. Legal opium is something which is cultivated as per the United Nations Convention on Narcotic Drugs 1961. Okay, so you can see here India is only among the 12 countries, only 12 countries are in the world where legal cultivation is permissible under the UN Convention on Narcotic Drugs. So India currently extracts only alkaloids from opium gum at facilities controlled by the Revenue Department in the Ministry of Finance. So the opium cultivation, it is overseen by the Revenue Department of Ministry of Finance that controls the opium cultivation and the opium gun facilities. Okay, the opium poppy can be cultivated only in such tracts as notified by the government. That's what I said earlier. And these are only confined to 3 states: Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Uttar Pradesh. I don't know if you have heard or not, but Mandsaur in Madhya Pradesh, it is a very famous place for opium cultivation. Okay. And despite producing opium poppy for opium production, India depends heavily on imports. So we also depend on opium imports, okay, to meet our domestic needs, to meet the need for poppy seeds for edible purposes, both for edible purposes and medical purposes. More than 30% of the demand is met by imports, and the primarily we import it from Afghanistan only. That is also you have to know. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So this question is from art and culture, and this statement is about, we have two statements about satras. Statement 1, satras are monastic institutions created as a part of the 16th century neo-Vaishnavite reformist Ramanuja. That is the first statement. Satras or Tans, they were established as centers of religious, social, and cultural reforms in the 16th century across Assam. So we have 16th century in both the statements. So that is probably true. What you have to look for is whether the monastic institutions were established by Ramanuja or not. And in the second statement, you have to look carefully for Assam. So whether these satras were actually established in Assam or elsewhere. So the answer to this question is 2 only, option B. So if you have any slight idea about Ramanujam, you could have easily gone for 2 only, because Ramanuja was born in Tamil Nadu. He is from Sri Perumbudur in Tamil Nadu, and he accelerated the Bhakti movement in South India. But here we are talking about Assam. Okay, so there is no way in those times he would have involved in anything to do with Assam. Though he is a Vaishnavite, he is not involved in the establishment of satras in Assam. So if you eliminate first statement with that logic, the answer will be B, 2 only. So why it was in news? Because many of the politicians right now, they are going to different satras. Because election is coming up in Assam, they are going to different satras, either to seek blessings or extolling the virtues of Shankara Deva. Okay, who is this Shankara Deva? He was the one who established these satras. He is also a Vaishnavite. So Satras are nothing but monastic institutions created by Saint Reformer Srimanta Shankaradeva. Okay, and note his time period. They might also ask you whether he is a contemporary of someone or not. So note who were the contemporaries of Shankaradeva and give it in the comment box below. Okay. And these satras or thans were established as centers of religious, social, and cultural reforms in 16th century across Assam. So the main area of concentration is Assam and Northeast India. So he also had a unique worship through art approach, that is the use of music, dance, and theater to express your devotion to your God. Okay, that is his unique approach of Sankaradeva. So let's have a look at his philosophy. Shankaradeva's philosophy is that he propagated a form of bhakti called Eka, Sharana, Nam, Dharma. Okay? So Eka means unity or believing in the oneness of God. And Sharana is nothing but a complete devotion. Sharanam adairathu. Okay? That's what they say in Tamil. So Sharanam is complete devotion, love and devotion to your God. And Nam is nothing but chantings and prayers. Okay? Chantings and prayers. And Dharma, we all know. The sense of right and wrong. So his form of bhakti had these four principles. Okay? And it was also based, the society he envisaged was based on equality and fraternity. It was free from caste differences, orthodox Brahminical rituals, and sacrifices. His teaching focused on prayer and chanting. Yeah, the Nam principle here. Prayers and chanting, that is what it means, instead of idol worship. And his dharma was based on four components: Deva, that is God; Nam, that is prayers; Bhagats, that is devotees; and Guru. So these were the four components of his dharma. Let's move on to the next question. That's all we have here about Shankaradeva's philosophy. So the next question is from environment, and here we have to see which of the following is correctly matched. Okay, here we have tiger reserves, here we have states. We have to tell them which option is correctly matched. I will give you 5 seconds. The answer to this question is option 2 only. Because map knowledge is very important as far as UPSC Prelims is concerned. Every year you get at least 2 or 3 questions like this. Either they will ask you to match the different festivals being celebrated in different states, or different products and GI products belongs to which state, like that, or something like this, different tiger reserves and states. So also have a look at wildlife sanctuaries, very important wildlife sanctuaries, and biosphere reserves. These are very important. So here the answer is 2 only. That is because Navgon Nagzira, it is in Maharashtra, whereas Kaval is in Telangana. So this tiger reserve in Maharashtra was recently in news because there was a forest fire in this region. Okay, and the forest department struggled very hard to fight this fire. So that's why I asked you this question. So have a look at the different tiger reserves in India. We have 50 tiger reserves. So it is not very difficult to mug them up. You can see that Navegon Nagzira, it is in Maharashtra. So this is what we have. And another one is Kabul. So this is Telangana. So Kabul is in Telangana. And the next one we had is here, Indravati, Chhattisgarh. Okay. Most all of them are nearby only. Okay, so that's why you have to be really careful about which tiger reserve belongs to which state and which of the tiger reserves share borders with two states. Okay, that also you have to keep in mind. Let's move on to the next question. So they are asking to identify the Indian freedom fighter. They have given a few statements about him. Let's see that. One of the architects of modern India, he was an untiring participant in both the non-cooperation movement and the civil disobedience movement. Okay, and he was a member of the Central Legislative Assembly and the Constituent Assembly. So you have to look for the best option to start with. For example, the first option is very vague. You cannot come to any conclusion with this statement because most of the leaders that we have, they participated in both non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement. So if you have a look at the second statement, it is a bit narrow, but yet we don't have anything to guess. So see the next statement. After independence, he served as the first chief minister of Uttar Pradesh. That is from 1950 to 54. So this narrows down our options. Let's see the next statement. He also served as the Union Home Minister from 1955 to 61. So that is after the death of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, he served as the Union Home Minister. As Home Minister, his chief achievement was the reorganization of states along linguistic lines. That is because the Reorganization Act was passed in 1956 and he was the Home Minister during that time. Okay. So reorganization was of states was done under his tenure, and he was also responsible for the establishment of Hindi as an official language of the central government and a few states. He received the Bharat Ratna in the year 1957. So these are five statements that we have about a freedom fighter, and you have four options here. I will give you 5 seconds to give me the right option. Okay. So if you know about the first chief minister of Uttar Pradesh, this question is very easy because with just knowing that you can directly go for the answer. But otherwise also you can try to take a guess. Okay. Let's have a look at the answer. The answer to this question is option C, GB Pant. So he was the first chief minister of Uttar Pradesh. He was also the union minister when the states got reorganized. Okay. Let's see about him. So GB Pant is Govind Ballabh Pant. So you have to remember these 5 facts about him. Okay, this is a new trend that is being witnessed in the UPSC Prelims papers, that they will give you a stanza of 3 to 4 points about a leader, and they are asking you to identify which leader they are talking about. So it is always better to read a few important contributions of certain very important national leaders. Okay. So let's move on to the next question. Question number 8. So this is about the Space portal. All right. So the Space portal launched recently is a, we have 4 options. Initiative aimed at boosting self-reliance and indigenization in defense sector. Program to sensitize of the masses about energy conservation and efficient use. And C, AI-based portal aimed at assisting judges with legal research. Skill training to rural youth in handling solar installations. We have 4 options. I will give you 5 seconds to give me an answer in the comment box. Yes, the answer to this question is option C. So PACE is nothing but an AI-based portal. Okay. So what does SUPACE stands for? It stands for Supreme Court's Portal for Assistance in Courts Efficiency. So that is what SUPACE stands for. Okay. Recently, the Chief Justice of India, he launched this AI-based portal. So this is aimed at assisting judges with legal research. So how will it do that? So it basically collects relevant facts and laws and makes them available to a judge. They are not designed to take decisions because we are still not there. AI based decision making, it is a whole different idea. There are a lot of ethical questions involved in that. So we are not taking AI based decisions here, but only we are processing facts, and those facts are made available to the judges looking for input for making a decision. So the judges will ultimately be making the decisions. So that's how it was, and that's how it will be. Okay. So initially it will be used on an experimental basis. That is by the Delhi and Bombay High Court judges who deal with criminal matters. Okay. After that, it might be expanded based on its success rate. It might be expanded across all the courts in India. Okay, it will produce results customized to the needs of the case and the way a judge thinks. So the portal will, how it will look like, it will have a different boxes. So for example, date, for if you want to search by date, or if you want to search by judges, judgments. Okay, if you want to search by state, etc., there will be different these kind of criterias. Okay, different kind of filters using which you can search and get your relevant data. So this will highly help in reducing delays and pendency of cases across different courts, because a legal research is a very important topic, and it takes a lot of time. So that is why we see delays and pendency of cases. Okay, this is expected to help there. And also in many of the essays, you can mention how artificial intelligence is improving our life. For that also, you can use this example. All right. Let's move on to the next question. This question is about the Sartak plan. So which of the following statements about Sartak plan is not true? Launched to address the data gap related to COVID-19, launched in pursuance of the goals of the NEP 2020, that is National Education Policy. Third option says plan to better the fight against tuberculosis, and none of the statement is true. None of the statements here are true. That is the final option. So I'll give you 5 seconds to give me an answer in the comment box. The answer to this question is option B. Option B. Sartak plan. Let's see about that. Sartak plan is nothing but the students and teachers' holistic advancement through quality education. That is what Sartak stands for. So it is launched primarily to fulfill the goals of National Education Policy 2020. Okay, it aims at providing an all-around development for the students at the primary and secondary level. It also focuses on teacher training. Okay, it also focuses on teacher training. That is a very underrated aspect as far as the Indian teaching curriculum is concerned. And it will also establish a safe, secure, inclusive, and conducive learning environment for students as well as teachers. The major focus is to define activities in such a manner which clearly delineate goals, outcomes, and time frame. For example, we have promised to achieve gross enrollment ratio of 100%, and we also have a time frame for that. So this portal will help in reaching it within the time limit. Okay. It links the recommendation of National Education Policy with 297 tasks, along with responsible agencies, timelines, and 304 output of these tasks. That's what this portal is expected to do. It is Sartak portal. It was launched by Ministry of Education. Okay. That's all you have to know here. Let's move on to the next question. The 10th and final question of today's session. So who among the following is not a party to the Quadripartite Accord signed in January 2020 related to the settlement of Bru refugees? So So you have to know about Bru Riang refugees, and if you know which state is involved, okay, which states are involved in this agreement, you can easily eliminate the options and come to an answer. So here we have government of Mizoram, government of Tripura, government of Manipur, and the government of Myanmar. So we have a country here and three states. So we have already told you it is a quadripartite accord. So four parties will be there. So who among the following are related to this accord? So the answer to this question is option 3 and 4 only, because I'm sorry, they're asking who of them are not related. Okay, who of them are not a party. So both 3 and 4, both these entities are not involved in this accord. So first of all, let's see who the Brus or Riangs are. So the Brus or Riangs are nothing but they are a tribal community. Okay, they are called as Brus in Tripura and Riangs in Mizoram. Okay, they are an indigenous to North India and they live in Tripura, Mizoram, and Assam. In Tripura, they are recognized as a particularly vulnerable tribal group. You can see here, Mizoram and Tripura. They share a long border. Okay. In Mizoram, they have been targeted by groups that do not consider them indigenous to the state. Basically, the outsider syndrome, the outsider debate. Okay, so they are not amongst us. So that is why in 1997, following ethnic clashes, a lot of Brus they fled the districts of Mizoram and they were accommodated in Tripura. Okay, so because they were burnt down, so they moved to Tripura in 1997, and they were primarily residing in the relief camps. Okay, so it is also wrong to call them as refugees. I know I have called them as refugees, but they are not refugees. They are internally displaced people because the displacement happened within the country. So we cannot call them as refugees, but rather internally displaced people. Okay. So 37,000 Brus fled Mizoram, and since then 5,000 have returned to Mizoram. Okay, but 32,000 still live in the relief camps in northern Tripura. That is in this part. So this latest agreement, it says that they will now settle in Tripura. They don't have to stay only in the relief camps, but they will be resettled in Tripura. Okay, that is what the 2020 agreement says. Actually, 2018 also they signed an agreement. So it talks about resettlement in Manipur, resettlement in Mizoram, because originally they belonged to Mizoram. Only because of the clashes they came to Tripura. So the 2018 agreement talks about resettlement in Mizoram, but the government decided against this because it will be really difficult to provide security for them again in Mizoram. For suppose again something like ethnic clashes happen, it is always the government's responsibility to provide security. Okay, so they decided in 2020 to resettle them within Tripura itself. Okay, so let's see about this accord, quadripartite accord. Quadripartite accord, the center, the governments of Mizoram, Tripura, and the leaders of Bru organization. Though those people are the four entities. Okay, Mizoram government, Tripura government, the center, and the leaders of Bru organizations. So all of them signed this agreement in January 2020 to let the remaining 35,000 refugees who have stayed back to be resettled in Tripura. Okay, they will be resettled in Tripura only. So this seeks to end the 22-year-old Bru refugee crisis in Northeast India. So it happened in 1997. So it's been more than 2 decades. Okay, so under the pact, the Home Ministry has committed to incur the whole expenditure of settlement in Tripura. So the entire expenditure is taken care of by the Home Ministry. And the package also was assured, and each refugee family would get the following, that is a plot, a fixed deposit of rupees 4 lakh, free ration, a monthly stipend of rupees 5,000 for 2 years. And in addition to that, each family will also be provided rupees 1.5 lakh to construct a house. This is under PM Awas Yojana. So this is the accord. This is the key points, okay, which you have to know. So that's all we have here about this question. We have come to the end of this session. Today we have seen 10 important questions from 10 important topics. We saw the appointment of Chief Election Commissioner, his appointment procedure, his removal procedure, the composition of Election Commission, etc. And then we saw about India's public debt. What is public debt and what is debt to GDP ratio, and India's debt scenario, how it is amongst the emerging economies. That is also we have seen. And then we saw a special agreement, that is cities combating plastic entering the marine environment. This is an agreement between India and Germany for cooperation in three cities in UP, Andaman and Nicobar, and Kerala. Okay. And then we also saw about the cultivation of opium, legal opium. India is the largest cultivator of legal opium, okay, in the world, and the main states which cultivate them are MP and Rajasthan. And then we saw about the Satras of Assam. We saw about Shankaradeva. And then we also saw about the important tiger reserves in India. Have a look at it. Memorize them as much as possible, as much as you can, and revise it again and again. Okay. So there is not too many tiger reserves, not like wildlife sanctuaries. We have only limited numbers, just 50. So you can always memorize that. We saw about GB Punt and Space Portal, the AI portal to assist judges, okay, in legal research. You have to note that this AI does not take decisions. They will only assist in making decisions. And then we have the Sarthak plan to implement the national education policy. The plan will give you the timeline and the expertise help that is needed to achieve the goals under national education policy. And finally, we saw about quadripartite accord between Mizoram, Tripura, the government of India, and the leaders of Brew organization. Okay, so these are the 10 important topics that we saw today. Every question was from one different subject. Okay, if you have any queries regarding any questions that we have discussed here, feel free to type it in the comment section. I will definitely clear your doubts. So that's all. We have come to the end of this session. So far, we have completed 25 sessions in the Prelims Heist series, and we have covered 250 questions. Okay, so I want you to go through all the last but one slide, the coverage slide of all these videos, and go through all the 10 topics under every video. Okay, so those are very, very important topics which have high probability in featuring the UPSC Prelims 2021. If you don't have any questions, we can end this session here. After thorough R&D, we are giving you these questions, because these 10 questions per session, they are made, taken from highly dynamic topics based on daily current affairs. So if you have read the current affairs, please kindly go through all the videos under the Prelims Heist session, take up our playlist and play all the videos. It will definitely be helpful to you in your preparation. We barely have what, 2 months, less than 60 days. So it is time for you to start attending questions, taking mock question papers and all. So if you want to enroll for IBH Prelims Test Series, you can also check that out. You can go to IASbyheart.com, or you can comment under this video and we will definitely get back to you. We have a special IBH Prelims Test Series for 2021. Okay, start taking tests, see how you are performing, see where you are lacking, and focus on those areas. As far as prelims is concerned, revise, revise, and revise. Okay, that should be the sole mantra to succeed in prelims. So far you must have learned 6 to 8 months of reading. You would have done already 6 to 8 months of studying. So now it is time to revise, okay, and take tests. See whether you were able to complete the tests within 2 hours or not. Okay. So keep trying and get back to us. Okay, we will definitely help you in areas where you need assistance. Okay, that's all we have here. I will wrap up the session. Thank you for attending this session. Goodbye.